Hello and welcome to episode 3 of our Beyond the Screen interview series, where we take a deep dive into the world of digital signage with top experts from our ecosystem of partners. Today I'm joined by Ian Dewar.
Hello, I'm Ian Dewar. I'm a CEO and co-founder of Ergonomic Solutions. We have been mounting technology in a retail environment for 28 years. We focus very much in retail type environments. It's about understanding it as opposed to being the kind of people that mount technologies in schools, for example. It's a very different environment. And what we try to do is to specialize in understanding the environment it goes into and then making new technology fit those existing environments wherever possible. So we do it with the checkout, we do it self-service, and in terms of digital signage.
We're going to talk about all things digital signage and the ecosystem and the infrastructure around it that drives the digital signage marketplace. But first question for you is a generic one, really. Is where do you see the future of digital signage? It's massive at the moment. It's been talked about. It's been driven quite hard. It's all over the sort of retail press. Where do you see the future of digital signage?
Well, I mean, as you say, it's come a long way. I mean, digital signage was very much sort of, the occasional predetermined advertising promotional screens, and then big brands were using it in a more experiential kind of way in their showroom type stores. But now it's really moving into the mainstream retail marketplace. I mean, particularly the two drivers that we see, one is retail media networks, so that it's becoming an incremental revenue stream, particularly in the FMCG type retail spaces, and also moving on the sort of more experiential type stuff. So interactive signage, and so that you things like lift and learn and computer vision, so that the messaging can be tailored specifically to the needs of the customer. These are the kind of things that I think are really starting to drive it and are really pushing retail media and digital signage into the much broader retail market that we see today.
And obviously the part that your business plays in that around housings and formats, right? What's the most important thing for customers to consider? Is it aesthetics? Is it practicality? Where would you guide the customer?
Definitely both of those, but I would also add safety, to that. Safety of the public and the safety of the equipment. Aesthetics and tying into the brand are obviously very, very important as well, but also the ease of installation, and that's really where we come in, trying to simplify the amount of sort of pre-work that needs to go in. So if we're dealing with something like an in-window mount, every window is going to be a little bit different in terms of size, where some kind of decal maybe across the window or what have you. And these are the kind of things that what we try to do with our installation systems is to enable them to, the installers to be able to react effectively to the environment that they find themselves in.
Yeah, I think we would definitely echo that. The environments are all different, and it can be the implementation fee can be quite a considerable cost if you're having to work on the fly. If you're giving us capabilities where we can adapt, given the infrastructure of the building, or the size of the window, and it makes it easy because it's one top model, then it reduces the cost, the ongoing cost to our customers as well. So we would echo that. It's a big part of it. What do you think the common mistakes are? Have you, having worked with a number of different partners, not just Trust, have you seen some common mistakes that people make out there?
Yeah, I mean, one in terms of the sort of installation planning, but also, not fully being able to define what the objectives are. What is it that they're trying to achieve? And that will impact upon the positioning of the screen within the store, and the size and structure of the screen and the messaging, have really got to be aligned with the objectives that they're putting in. So if they're not clear up front about those kind of things, and they think it's just putting a TV on a wall, so to speak, then they're probably not going to achieve what they're trying to do.
And from a, the position of the screen in store, right? We agree that that's, hugely important. How do customers work out where the best place is to put the screen or put the asset?
Well, again, it's got to be aligned to what their objective is. So, you know, if the objective is to increase footfall into the store, then you need in window and out of store, or DIH, sort of outdoor advertising to actually bring them in. Yeah. If it's predominantly to sort of focus on this week's special offers, yeah, then you need to capture that kind of information relatively early. Yeah. But then you look at other areas within the store. You know, utilizing in the, normal supermarkets, even, slightly more sort of menu board type options for deli counter, fresh produce counters, and so on. So it really is about what is it that we're trying to achieve. And the other area that is becoming bigger and bigger is the sort of like the end of aisle type options, which become more interactive. So, it's about sort of looking to see that, but further down the tracks, obviously with sort of sensors and computer vision and what have you, we can use that by mounting these effectively across the store to track where footfall is going, how footfall is interacting with the screen, and then refining the offer over time.
And if we've seen some of these common mistakes ourselves, right? But what does success look like? If you've got a success story you can share with us around maybe a partner you worked with, or a customer, an end user, where they've got it right, and what did right look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best example to share with that is obviously one of the ones that we've done with you, which is sort of Aldi in the UK. Yeah, and they've positioned the screens very specifically against their objectives. So they're advising the special offers as they go into the store in terms of the lobbies, but they're also interacting and affecting the customers as they're coming out to queue, reducing their perceived queuing times at the checkouts by the advertising messages in the windows facing into the store. So I think they're achieving their objectives, and what we've been able to do with both of those is to be able to simplify the installations. So I really think that's been really good so far.
I think that's a lot of, there's a lot of sense there on the simplification of the implementation, which we already talked about, which is not a lot of people think about it, because it can be a significant cost of an overall project, because all buildings are different, all infrastructures are different, and the more you can simplify that, the less capital it takes to implement some of these projects, and that's one of the objectives we achieved with the Aldi project, as you know.
I mean, one of the old adages in sort of retail generally, the most expensive part of the installation is putting people on site.
Yeah.
So if you can minimise the amount of time that they need, give them the best possible chance to get the job done in a single visit, then that really does help.
Absolutely. Do you think customers are missing anything in the world of digital signage, or there's a lot of hype about it at the moment? We know for lots of different reasons. One of the topics we'll talk about later, but is there something that people are missing? Do you think they're not adopting it as quickly as they should do? I mean, the States seem to be a little bit ahead of us in terms of their adoption of digital signage and media in this environment. Do you think the UK is behind?
In some circumstances, but I don't see that we're hugely behind. I think that things like retail media networks and incremental revenue streams coming from that is really going to help push this forward. Yeah. But for me, the thing that I think is not being utilised enough is the sort of interactivity in terms of the signage. Sort of things like proximity sensors, so that as you become closer to the screen, it will adapt the messaging. If you've caught the eye, then it can bring the messaging to the next level. So I think this sort of interaction, not necessarily just with a touch screen or lift and learn, but this interaction of starting to tailor messaging to the consumer is a real opportunity, for future growth.
Yeah, like what you're saying makes a lot of sense, right? Because it also stacks up against some of the industry analysts' views as well, right? There's still, store purchases still make 80% up 80% of a lot of people's revenue, you
Yeah.
know. They, like you said, the younger generation. I'm just going to say the younger generation. You're probably I'm a wee bit older than you, and I think anyway. But the younger generation want an immersive. The younger generation want an immersive experience, right? And to be fair, I've got 5 sons, so I do shop. When I'm forced to get my checkbook out, or credit card. And they want to touch and feel stuff, and that interaction, that ability to make their experience more immersive and easier, right? It's
Yeah.
absolutely true, because if you've ever gone and stood in one of the sports shops with a pair of shoes in your hand, right, and I'd stood for 20 minutes, you end up not buying them, and that's my experience, and my lads are exceptionally impatient. So the more easier you make to purchase, the more information you give people, the more information that's relevant to that demographics, to that individual, and to what they're trying to buy, I think. And whether that's done through AI, we're going to talk about that a little bit again further down the line, but surely that's got to be the way forward, isn't it? That we're missing this element. Somebody once said to me the other day when we were looking at an AI model, we said, the AI customer service model, they don't turn up sick, they don't have a hangover day, they don't have a birthday, they're there 24/7, so the quality and consistency of experience is always the same.
Yeah. But I mean, obviously, one of the things we've got to be very careful of, if we're utilizing things like AI to, to make some determination on somebody's gender, age, whatever else it may be. Yeah, we've got to also make sure that we're not falling foul and capturing that image from a perspective of GDPR. So that there are sort of considerations that we need to build in, and we have to ensure that we use these technologies responsibly.
There are even sort of even more simpler things that we are seeing, right? Where in a lot of the flagship high brand stores, massive use of video walls now. Yeah.
Yep.
You walk in, it's a video wall that could be 20 foot by 20 foot, playing, video content, again, tailored to the environment. But, are you seeing a lot of, demand for your product to house and mount these video walls?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the environments which are sort of effectively sort of brand showroom type areas where it's all about experiential, they don't quite mind as long as you buy the product through whatever channels. Yeah. We get involved in video walls, but that's but in that type of environment, they tend to be very big custom type installations and tend to be quite one-offs. They're quite unique stores quite often. Yeah. I think our strength comes out more in the sort of, when you've got sort of retail chains where you're trying to roll out and have, solutions that are easier to implement across a broader area.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, although we've been installing sort of video walls in supermarkets in these days, and so it's but that is for the clarity of message more than, and the size of message perhaps more than the experiential type piece that the sort of the high end brands are trying to achieve.
Yeah, well, we're seeing now in car showrooms where there is a tablet-based video wall driven by a tablet-based technology that allows people to configure the car specific, and the most important thing, to their requirements. But the most important thing is color replication, right? They want to see if they want it in a lime green, it's got to be seen as a lime green, and they want to see it in a life-size model. So that's why video walls, I think, are becoming more important there.
Absolutely.
We did touch on this, and we said we would talk about it later, which is, the future of retail media and how big a part that's going to play in the adoption of digital signage. You've already alluded to it. Is it all just about extra advertising revenue and a revenue stream they don't have today?
I mean, to me, it's about driving revenue within the store, but also utilizing that technology to drive incremental revenues.
Yeah.
I mean, and certainly the sort of the omni-channel type retailers where they're offering the sort of the advertising across websites in addition to in stores, tying the experiences together, that becomes potentially quite a significant incremental revenue stream.
We're definitely seeing more people talking about it, not just in the press, but during our conversations with at the very early stages of digital signage projects. The art of the possibilities, I like to call it. There are very few people in the UK that we know of who are really taking advantage of it. Tesco's probably number one in the UK, and they're insignificant in terms of what they get in terms of revenue from the likes of your Walmarts in the US, right? So, do you think it's hype, this, Ian, or is it definitely going to be something that will happen?
I mean, more and more retailers are talking about it. Yeah. The sort of the influencers, the sort of the organisations that plot and trend and look at it, they are really trying to show the retailers how they can make this happen. One of our another one of our German retail customers, they are about to start basically giving the screens into their franchise stores, because it's a franchise type model, and they're going in more or less free with a cut of the advertising revenue going to the store owners. So I think that the sort of, certainly the more innovative retailers are closer and closer to this becoming reality.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the biggest challenges, right? When you've got a large store format and a lot of stores across the UK, right? It's the capital cost of getting digital screens in, right? It's not cheap. We know that. So the funding with that is going to become more innovative, I think, going forward. So it'll be interesting to see what the future looks like for that. Any tips you would give anybody looking at this from a retail media perspective, from your experience?
I mean, from my point of view, and where my background is, make sure it's installed properly. You do want the equipment to be safe. If it's a revenue generating thing, it needs to be installed in such a way that it's going to be giving the message and earning you money all the time. Yeah. So make sure you get that bit right.
All right. Some quick fire questions now, Ian, right? Again, we touched on it a little bit, but what's your thoughts on AI? Do you think it's coming? Do you think it's already here? It's here in the background somewhere in some shape or form? What's your thoughts?
They fall into two areas. I think AI is here, but I still think it's quite in its early stages. We're talking to a number of organisations that are using AI, and computer vision across the stores, but they're using it much more for things like loss prevention than they are for tailoring messaging and what have you. They're utilising it much more for taking multiple data points in terms of forecasting inventory. It's being used more and more, not necessarily rolled out yet, but the use cases are being developed and are being tried in real life environments in many more areas. And it's quite a broad subject, and there's sort of a lot of sort of automation and machine learning type things that aren't AI, because it's learned through repetition, get lumped into the same kind of thing. So we're seeing sort of quite a lot of computer vision, particularly with things like smart carts, replacing barcode scanning with being able to recognise the products, and so you can recognise a lot more products a lot more quickly than sort of traditional self-scanning and so on. But in my experience, the AI has been used more for inventory management and loss prevention than it is for interacting digital signage. But I think it's got a really important role to play as we go forward.
Yeah, and given our previous subject, right? How important is analytics?
I think that you can't really achieve your objectives without analytics. You've got. It's one thing having a nice shiny screen up there and putting some pictures on it, yeah, but being able to look at it from a point of view of particular advert playtime versus impact through the point of sale, but also start to look at dwell time in terms of various types of advertising and bringing that back and tying that to point of sale type data. That way you can refine how your digital signage messaging is working, and you can start to align it to driving more revenue within the store. So these are the kind of things that I think can only be done by better capture and better analytics.
Yeah, and surely if you're going to sell advertising space on your screens, right, being able to give the right demographics and the analytics of the footfall, is going to be important to get the maximum value for your advertising space, I would have thought as well.
Absolutely. I mean, understanding the demographics of who's dwelling in terms of certain types of advertising and what have you, these are the kind of things that are really valuable for the brands that are going to use the advertising space.
Name one common digital signage mistake.
The common one is to just put a USB type stick in there and assume that the basis of it is to just do rolling adverts. I think that you really need to have a network that enables you to tailor advertising. If you've got it might be if it's a rainy day within a particular area, you need to do the promotion on the umbrellas, not sell sunscreen.
Yeah.
That being able to manage it effectively, centrally, but then focus the messaging to the local conditions. If you don't do that, I think that's an area that you're not going to get the return from the investment.
And want to go with the last question. Name a key benefit of digital signage.
It's got to be, in my opinion, driving revenue and profit. Yeah, I mean, if it's not driving, impacting customer reactions to get them to do what you're looking for them to do, which therefore has to be about driving revenue, yeah, then it's not achieving what it set out to achieve.
It's absolutely been driving more purchases in store, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whether it's an emotional purchase or it's purchasing something that they didn't know you sold, or in grocery, whether it is meal deals, whatever. It's got to be about getting the basket size up, and the basket sizes don't have to increase too phenomenally to fund the digital signage piece. So you couple that with increased basket sizes, more profitability, selling of advertising space, then the ROI model for digital signage becomes really real then,
I agree completely.
Yeah. Ian, thank you for joining us. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Steve.
Yeah, thank you for your time again today, Ian, and stay tuned for episode 4.